Everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Adorkable Rachel, and it's time for another episode of Rachel Reviews, so let's just hop into it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man certainly has had an interesting track record with Sony, but this is the first time that they've released an animated full-length feature film based on Spider-Man, and I never imagined something like this would get such a wide release, but you know what? I am so glad that it did, and mostly that's because I'm not super familiar with the Miles Morales story arcs, but this was a fantastic introduction to him. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse follows teenager Miles Morales in New York City. He has a difficult relationship with his cop father and is attending a prep school that he doesn't feel comfortable in. And one day he gets bitten by a radioactive spider and basically becomes a Spider-Man. Peter Parker is also there, as well as a lot of other spider people that get roped in from different dimensions. Not gonna say exactly how that happens, but it does involve Kingpin, played by Liev Schreiber. You see guys, this is how you use your Liev Schreiber. Take notes, My Little Pony the movie. And among those spider people that are brought in, we have a Spider-Gwen, a noir Spider-Man, anime Spider-Girl, and that's actually absurdly cool because all of these characters have appeared in previous comic books, including Spider-Ham. Yes, that is actually something that exists. I really like the Miles Morales character in this movie, and it's actually really interesting seeing a completely different character go through a lot of the same beats as Peter Parker, but from a different perspective. And Miles is also really easy to fall in love with and relate to. And yeah, it's kind of the typical fish out of water story when it first starts out, but I think the reason that we really care about him is because they really do take the time to flesh out his insecurities and why he doesn't get along with his father, that's a cop, and more along with his uncle, who lets him rebel a bit, and who also doesn't really get along with the father. And the animation and pacing also help us understand Miles' process of becoming a Spider-Man. The movie does take a lot of time for him to hone his powers. It's not like there's just this little montage and there, he's a Spider-Man. In fact, he doesn't actually get an official spider suit until like right before the climax of the movie. And I think normally a lot of people would have a lot of issues with that, but because the majority of the film is him coming to terms with his powers and trying to control them, that's what makes a big climax of when he finally reaches that place when he understands his own worth all the more satisfying. Plus, it's not like there's no spider suit throughout this entire movie. That's why we got Peter Parker and the other characters. Speaking of Peter, I actually really like what they do with an older Peter Parker in this movie. I can kind of imagine some may have a few little issues with it, but I thought it was completely great and so brand new, and I loved it. And I also really like the bond that he and Miles end up forming together. And I think in my reaction to the trailer of this movie, I had noted that I didn't really seem to see any kind of tragedy in Miles' life. Holy crap, was I wrong! If you're not familiar with the Miles Morales story arc, there is a twist and tragedy that is so shocking and heartbreaking. Oh my god. Oh my god, it hurts. And I really do love the animation in this movie. I mean, how can you not? It's kind of this combo of both computer and hand-drawn animation, and it's so unique and beautiful and stylized, and I think the reason it's animated this way is because it's meant to look like a comic book brought to life. And this kind of animation really lends itself to doing that. The style's a little inconsistent though, because sometimes they would have speech bubbles, but then most of the time they don't, and I'm really not sure what the creative choice was behind that. Maybe there's a reason, but I didn't really catch one. And I know that seeing a movie in 3D is a bit of a mixed bag for some people, but I personally think it works a lot better with animation, and seeing it with this film, it just made everything look so much more dimensional and real. And this style makes the action so much more exciting and even funny in some moments, because it's a cartoon and it's more humorous and probably would have been a lot more silly if it was live action. And it's interesting because there's a lot of characters in this movie, and you'd think that that would be kind of hard to keep up with, but I actually really didn't have a problem with that. Everything just flowed together naturally, and when a surprise or something new came up, it came at just the right time because we had enough time previously to grasp everything that had happened. The comedy in this movie is also really funny, and it's very self-aware and kind of gives some winks to the audience every now and then, so to speak. And also, the backstories in this movie can be fledged out really quickly, but they make up for it by being really funny. And they're also not afraid of looking ridiculous, because this is a movie with characters from different dimensions and different rules per dimension, so you can kind of do whatever you want with them. But there's also some legit drama and some really high stakes that we get invested in. And it is so hard to make comedy and drama work together in a movie, but this film does it so well. When something funny or dramatic happens, it doesn't feel out of place. The only time in the movie that it did kind of feel rushed and just thrown in there was when they went into the backstory of Kingpin, because it is kind of random and it felt like they wanted to give him drama, but again, it wasn't really fledged out enough. Not saying that that moment needed to be humorous like a lot of the other backstories, but it just needed a little more focus and a little more time and needed to not feel so randomly spontaneous. And if I had to complain about anything else, honestly, it's probably just little minor things that no one even cares about. I didn't really like the design of the Penny Parker character. I thought it was kind of lazy. I mean, she looks like an American fan art version of an anime character. I think they could have spent a little more time on this design. Also, I don't really understand why Miles stayed at the prep school that he attended, even though it was within the city limits and they established that he went back to the school at the beginning of the week and just stayed there. Is it a boarding school where a bunch of other kids come from across the country? I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but it just wasn't explained at all, and I don't get it. But other than that, I'm with everyone else. This movie is spectacular. The animation is phenomenal. The characters are fledged out spectacularly despite the time constraint. The voice acting is on point, and the comedy and drama balance each other perfectly. Audiences and critics have been praising the hell out of this movie, and it's no mystery why. I really hope that there's a sequel to this movie in the future, but honestly, I don't know why there wouldn't be, because it's obviously gonna do well, and also there is that really funny post-credit scene that implies there's gonna be a sequel. Make sure you stay for that. This movie has to be successful, and it offers so many different kinds of opportunities for sequels, or maybe even a TV show. I love Peter Parker, but I also love that they've introduced a new main character onto the big screen in this new world, or Spider-Verse, as you may call it. And I would love to see more of it on the big screen in the future, so make it happen, Sony! Also, just on a personal note, I was invited to be a part of what I was told was the very first 4DX screening of this movie, and it was also my very first time seeing a movie in 4DX. Oh my god, I hate it. This is where the chairs move, and when stuff happens on the screen, it like does things to your seat so you're like feeling the impact of the movie. It also does things with wind and like hits your legs and also can spray water at you. Okay, this was fine for like a 10-minute ride at Disneyland. This was not okay for a 2-hour movie. It was so distracting and I hated it. I'm sorry, if you like it, that's totally fine, but me, I hope to never see a movie in that way again. And it's especially distracting because in movies when there's impact and they want you to feel something with your chair, they'll do things like hit your back or your legs, but in the movie, when a pigeon hits Miles Morales' face, doesn't do anything to your face at all. Thank you for that, just saying. But, you know, it doesn't work. Just no, I'm sorry, I can't do it again. So those are my thoughts on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so now I want to know, what did you guys think of the movie? Also let me know, what's your favorite Spider-Verse out there, and are there any other movies coming out soon that you want me to review? Well, go ahead and leave your comments below, be sure to like and share, and if you're new and like what you saw here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and also be sure to hit the little bell button down there to get notified when new stuff comes out, because I make new videos every week! Bye, Adorkable Baddies, I'll see you soon!